by Weeblo Troop 4206.
Color guard attention. Color guard advance. Color guard present colors. Will the audience please recite the Pledge of Allegiance with me? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
2. Color guard, please post the colors. Color guard dismissed.
Thank you so much, Troop 4206. You did a marvelous job. We'll now go to communications. Our city manager has stepped away. Does legal have anything?
I don't have anything tonight, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Mr. Oka.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Okay, Brian.
Just a real quick heads up regarding the bond money for the parks projects. 9 of the 24 playground systems have been finished and installed. They're continuing to move forward with the other remainder. We have 2 tennis courts, Jordan Meadows and Teton Estates, that have been resurfaced with post-tension courts. They've got to let the cement cure out for 28 days, so they won't strike those courts until the springtime, so they'll be usable in the spring. That's all I got. Thank you.
Okay, Ryan.
Yes, just to make you aware, I know on the consent calendar tonight we have a resolution authorizing an increase in the stormwater bond. But we are, whether that happens or not, we're anticipating on moving forward with that stormwater bond. We want to do that as close to January as possible, per the direction of the council. We will be bringing a parameters resolution to the council at the December 2nd meeting, in which we will adopt the amount and the interest rate as we go along. So we have that on the calendar. We will have that there with our financial advisors on December 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you. Wendell?
Yes, I have one item. I think we've mentioned to you several times over the last several years that we expected a stormwater audit by the state. Well, that time is now upon us. On December 2nd and 3rd, we're going to be undergoing a full audit of the stormwater system management plan. And so we'll let you know how that goes. Just want to let you know that.
Thank you. Chief McElreath.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Chief Diamond.
Nothing tonight, thank you, Mayor.
Councilperson Rice.
Nothing this time, thank you.
Councilman Selford.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Hanson. The Western Stampede, I just wanted to inform, I guess, the council and the public that work is already begun for our next 4th of July celebration, and rodeo is taking place. They're preparing contracts to be reviewed and working through the details. Those will be coming to the council. Working on ticket sales coming up. But really what I want to do is specifically to the council to give somebody a heads up. There was an election yesterday, and not being on the ballot, I will be ending my service as councilman in January, and that also means that I will not be the liaison for the Western Stampede Committee. It's been a good 5 years or so, and a good run, but I want you to start thinking about who's going to take that on next. spectacular event. It's going into its, I think, its 63rd year in the city. So thinking about that, if the results stay as they are, we even have a councilman-elect in the audience who should be thinking about this as well. And anyway, just wanted to throw that out now. And you won't be doing that probably until your strategic plan in January, but it's never too early to start thinking. So thank you.
Councilman Nichols.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. I have nothing tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hager.
Thanks, Mayor Pro Tem. I have some questions, if I could, so I hope I have a little privilege here. The first question, I had a resident approach me, and this is more about a legal issue, and it has to do with code enforcement. I don't know if, Darian, you're familiar with our code enforcement and how it's done. The first question is, when we see a violation, what's the process? Do you know? Because I don't, so that's why I'm asking.
The Code Enforcement Office has a hotline with a telephone number. I am not sure of what that telephone number is offhand. And so the violation can be called in on that number and reported, and then they listen to those messages. And then they'll begin the procedure.
So if there's a violation and they, in other words, something that violates our code, what's the process as far as, I guess, the person that's breaking our code? I don't want to call them a criminal because it's more of an infraction from my perspective. But what's the process? In other words, if you get stopped by a police officer, they give you a ticket, and you come to the judge. So I want to know, do we have due process?
West Jordan uses an administrative enforcement process. And so the code enforcement officers will inspect the property that they're referred to see if they actually witness any violations. And then they will provide a notice of violation to the property owner and identify a date on which those violations should be corrected.
Hey, Councilman, if I could.
No, I'm okay.
Well, I'll just give you a suggestion. When this was created, our attorney's office had a pretty good graphic that was worked up that showed the process. I maybe suggest that they could get that too. That would probably be very helpful.
Okay, yeah, that'd be fine. The next, because there's a law called due process is where I'm getting at as far as how do they determine the fines and how do they fine people?
Those are set in the city code. So the administrative process is entirely described in the West Jordan City Code. I believe that it's in Title 14.
Okay.
Oh no, it's in Title 1.
So what does a person that's guilty of this ordinance violation, I guess it's an infraction, but do they have an appeal process? Is there a process that we go through? Because we seem to get a lot of our residents calling this lately.
Enforcement can be criminal, which would be an infraction or a misdemeanor. I believe it's a misdemeanor. But we typically don't pursue a criminal action. We typically pursue it through the administrative process because the goal is to obtain compliance. And so they do have an opportunity to work with the city and make requests to have that compliance. So there's a lot of discretion for the code enforcement officer to make determinations on when they'll do the reinspection, if the person's requesting additional time, those sorts of things. And then once the time passes and they perform the reinspection, that's when the fines begin to accrue. The fines are in the amount set forth in the city code. And they oftentimes are able to work with the code enforcement officer based on their circumstances, but there is a hearing process. So they can, under the city code, follow those processes to request the hearing. I think there's an administrative cost associated with being able to hold the hearing. I'm not sure what that fee is right offhand, but If they don't request a hearing, then there's a judgment, and that would be when the fine amount would be set.
So a judgment implies that a due process happened. So what is that process? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
The process is...
In other words, if they're fined per day, and they pay the inspections, this is what I'm hearing. Again, I just get phone calls. So, and they're assessed a certain amount. Who's deciding that amount, and if they're guilty or not? Is it just arbitrarily decided?
It's decided by an administrative law judge.
Which is in our city?
The city manager is able to appoint the administrative law judge. We have had different administrative law judges.
Okay. But do we currently have one? Is that why we're having more complaints? Or
I don't know why there are more people calling.
All right, just be aware, I'm receiving a lot of phone calls from residents and businesses that, not that they're not guilty of probably doing the infraction, but they feel helpless because they're used to the process of being notified, and if they're fined and the judge gives them a fine, they better pay it or they'll go to jail from my perspective. But I'm seeing major businesses, so I just like to bring that to attention to, first of all, would like the chart, I'd like the code and the state law that talks about administrative justice, I guess. And if it follows our process as far as making sure that their constitutional rights are adhered to, which is a right to have due process when you're accused of something. So if I could get that, I'd appreciate it. I have one more question, if I could, for him here. I've talked to our city manager about this, and Ryan, you did get back with me on most of the questions, and I appreciate that. It might be because I was gone and I missed the vote. So if I did, I apologize in advance. But who was awarded the RFP for the LEDs? Do you remember when we voted on that? This has to do with the LED lights. Okay.
We're in the process of preparing a purchase order for that.
Okay. The reason I bring it up, we set aside in 2014 $1 million for LED lights, and we also bonded for LED lights. So I've asked Mark to figure out where that $1 million is, and I've been told it's been moved somewhere. And the next question is, did we vote to move it? If we did, where to go? So I can find it.
Well, just to let you know, as far as the purchase order goes, we're looking at encumbering about $3.2 million for just the equipment, and then we're retaining $300,000 or so for the installation. So that will take up all the $3.5 million.
Now, just because I was informed that we were going to have the LEDs installed by December, is that still realistic? I'm excited about it. And then the next question, have we considered how much we're going to get back because we're going to get rebates from Rocky Mountain Power. So I'd like to see those numbers.
We're still working on that, though. We actually have Rocky Mountain Power as part of the whole process. And once we pick the equipment, then they can tell us how much the rebates are going to be.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Councilman McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. A couple things this evening. First of all, thank you to the scouts who did the pledge for us. It's Max and Terry Weiss, it's good to see you out here again. Very much appreciate you being out here. As far as Councilmember Hage's questions regarding code enforcement, we went through probably, was it just over 2 years ago, and spent an extensive amount of time in code enforcement. If you go to our city code, Title 1, Chapter 14, Article C, it walks through many of the questions that were being asked. The process of the service of the notice of violation, what happens, how somebody can respond to that, compliance. It talks about the code enforcement hearings, default judgment, the administrative hearing officer, what happens if they don't comply, if they do apply, how they can appeal. It also talks about what can be done in an emergency if there are certain things that cause an emergency situation, different approaches the city can take. So there's a lot of really, really good information that's out there that was extensively reviewed probably about 2 years ago. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have a couple of things. I want to congratulate Councilwoman Sophie on her win, and I want to congratulate Mr. Burton on his win. And I'm sure he will do a great job for the next 4 years, because I'll keep an eye on him. And it was a great campaign. He and I both discussed beforehand where we would have a fair and pleasant campaign against each other, which we did. And so I congratulate him on his win. I do have, and Councilman Higa brought this up on code enforcement. We are a city of 110,000 people. We have 2 code enforcement officers. That's impossible. That is totally impossible to take care of what is happening in our city with 2 code enforcement officers. We do not have enough animal control officers. As I have brought up in previous meetings, the skunk problem, that's not something I'm going to discuss tonight. But I feel like we want our city to be a place that people want to live. We want it to be a place that looks neat and clean. And 2 code enforcement officers cannot do this. They cannot cover this city and all of the things that are happening. And so I would strive that when they have the future council in January has their goals, that we look at adding more code enforcement officers, because they are overwhelmed, and also our animal control officers. I think that we do need to look at that. It is a public safety thing. You, as I was interning as a planner, you have part of your really fun part of becoming a planner is you have to do code enforcement. And there was times I had to have a police officer with me because I had been threatened. And our code enforcement officers right now do not have workable radios. They're out there on their own with no way to contact if they're in trouble. They have radios that they got surplus from the PD, and I talked to Mr. Hudson. He said that he cannot have them repaired. They are now gone. They are no longer working. And so I think that's something that the council should look at when they set their goals in January. And that's all. Councilman Southwick.
Yeah, just one quick comment. I don't know if we began to take, it's probably a little early to keep a running list of the items that we're going to talk about in strategic planning. Excuse me. This council, the future council, would like to talk about. I won't include myself in that. But those might be very good ones to add to that list if we start that. Maybe remember that those things, it's a perfect time to start talking about the goals for the next year and set us up for the budget and all that. So, a suggestion.
Thank you. And my mistake, I failed to congratulate Councilman McConaughey on his win. So you get him for another 4 years too, and he does a great job. So our city is very lucky to have the council they have. We now have our city manager back. Do you have any comments?
Well, only one. And as Councilman Southwick indicated, if you have certain things that you want for the retreat, please let me know, and I will create that list and get some background information on it too, so we're prepared to as a staff. So, thank you.
Welcome. Okay, we'll go to citizens' comments now. If you have anything that is not on as a public hearing, now is the time to speak on that. If it's a public hearing, you'll have your turn at that time. So I have a list of 3. We will start with Alexander Efremo.
Mayor Pro Tem and Council. I'd like to please pause. Ladies and gentlemen, may we pause for a moment to reflect our common goals before we begin the business of this meeting. We are privileged to gather here together in a system that gives us freedom to participate in our own governance, whether from within or through the strength provided by our personal faith. We seek wisdom, understanding, fairness, and resolve in the fulfillment of our duties and in pursuance of our goals. May our differences be respected and our common aspiration of promoting the public good be our guide in carrying out the tasks we are about to undertake. Thank you. I am still waiting for the council person to administer an apology to our mayor, our city council, and the people of West Jordan on the behavior that occurred by that council person on April 29th. I'm still waiting. And what has happened, I talked to West Jordan Journal. They do not deliver the West Jordan Journal to all people in West Jordan. Now, we pay $2,400 a month for advertising on this. And it's very interesting. They picked sections where they put out the paper. And it was very interesting. District 4, all the people that lived in District 4, they all got their papers. So this is abominable. This is one bad apple really, really does ruin the whole thing. And here are the 4 pieces of paper that we're talking about in the November issue of West Jordan thing. And I really, really feel sorry for that council person. None of these are dated. I called the Sim Gill, and they said that this was not being investigated. I think it's abominable for the council person to go ahead and to accuse us to have a sexual discrimination on this. I understand that council person called Channel 5. 5 came to the house of the council person, and then they came here to the city hall. I think it's abominable. I think it's a mafia tactic. I'm embarrassed that this person is our council person. And here is the paper. Here's the article. These are the papers. Where are the dates on these 4 papers? Anyway, I'm still waiting for the apology. I think that it's a disgrace. April 29th. Shame.
I'd just like to add, she has a good comment as far as it's not being delivered. So it might be incumbent on our staff to look in. And I used to do this for a living, and that is mail to homes and see if we are getting all our carrier routes delivered, because we do pay for our newsletter and that's we don't pay for the political stuff that you're talking about. But if it's not going to every home, we probably should know that. Thank you.
Okay, Barbara Backman. Okay, thank you. Christy Johnson. I'd be now.
Great. Thank you for your time. My name is Christy Johnson, and I currently serve on the West Jordan Little League Youth Football Program that we have here in West Jordan. Our league consists of over 234 youth from West Jordan, ranging from the ages of 7 to 14. This year, 10 of our 11 teams made it to playoffs, and we are thrilled for the opportunity for these boys and girls. We have a few girls in our league. Last week, the youth conference contacted us and awarded us with the playoffs so that our league could host the playoffs. Well, unfortunately, this is why I'm here. When we originally worked with the city on using Constitution Park, we had a variance through October 24th. So I'm here to ask for a variance to use the park on November 14th so that we can host playoffs. Playoffs is a great opportunity for West Jordan District. It allows us to raise critical funds for our league so that we can continue to offer this program and to continue to operate the program for West Jordan. I know it's late notice. We were just notified last week, and when we looked into it, we're like, oh, we don't have the park. So that's why I'm here to see if we can get a variance to host playoffs on November 14th.
Councilman McConaughey?
Thank you. If I could ask a couple questions real quick.
Sure.
So you're asking to host the playoffs at Constitution Park on the 14th?
No, what we're going to do, because playoffs allows us to take funds, so the U Conference says if you host playoffs, you get to get funds when people come in. Well, we can't block off Constitution Park. So we've actually contacted the adult flag football team that utilizes West Jordan and West Jordan Middle School and Majestic, and we've asked them that if we can get the variance, if they could play there, and we would play at the other schools. But we would need a variance to play, whether it be us or the flag football team.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm not sure whether you would be talking with Brian on this or not. He is over our Parks Department, and that's a little late in the year. Sometimes there's frost, sometimes there's snow. So Brian would be the one that you would talk with on this.
Just to give you folks a heads up, I spoke with Travis Johnson with West Jordan football today. The problem is with the variance. Opening and closing date of the parks is code. So to grant the variance, it would have to go to council because it's code. I think I'm correct. We don't have another council meeting until this is over with. We don't have the time. So Travis asked me to also bring up, if there's a chance, if he could get with the mayor and 4 council members and do a separate vote to grant the variance, if that's even possible.
I don't know, Darren, would that be possible for the mayor and 3 other council people to grant a variance?
I'm not sure. They typically do come to council. Yeah, as long as we're not waiving fees, I don't think it requires a public hearing. So it should just be able to be done under a regular agenda if it's put on an agenda as a special meeting.
Do we have the time that we could hand this off to the city manager and maybe consult with staff on the pros and cons, and if we could even do this and you could contact us, or is this something we need to do right now?
You're authorizing me then to negotiate this and then contact you afterwards?
Yes, if you would.
I just don't know that this is typically not a good venue to sit and go back and forth and try to figure out all the little, this is a very poor way to do it. And so in deference to these folks, to make sure they get a fair shake here, I think you ought to get out with your staff and see if this is even a feasible thing to do and how we might work this out, because we're not going to be able to do it right here.
Right. All right. We'll check it out, then I'll let you know what we decide.
Okay.
Councilman McConaughey?
Thank you. I was just going to point out that it's a little bit difficult for us right now because we can't take any action on something that's not agendized.
Sure.
But like Councilmember Salford said, I would support the idea of our city manager working with whoever and then contacting us as council members to see what we need to do.
That would be great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that has a public comment? Can we have Ms. Naylor?
My name is Betty Naylor. I live at 1229 West, 8450 South. And tonight I'm here to address you on business item 7A. I encourage the council to carefully consider this and pass it to allow swine in the rural residential areas. I serve as vice chairman of the Salt Lake County Fair Board, and many young people, 4-H and FFA people, want the opportunity to be able to raise swine and sheep, about the same stature. Obviously, swine weigh a little bit more than sheep. But these 4-H and FFA young people raise their animals. They learn responsibility, and that does mean cleaning up after the animal. It teaches them the life cycle of an animal. Yes, it is all right to raise an animal, but when that pig or swine reaches 240 pounds and they have to take it to the auction and get rid of it, it teaches them life cycles. It also says to them that they do have the responsibility of care of that animal on a daily basis. Allowing them to raise this animal also provides something that is very, very essential. Most of those kids that raise the animals and take them to the fair, take them to the auction, have to pay for what they have put into the animal, but most of them then put it aside for a college education. Raising an animal requires responsibility. I am happy to see that we are allowing or propose to allow the raising of swine in RR zones and not just agricultural zones. I encourage the council to carefully consider this and give these youth an opportunity to learn responsibility, learn the life cycle of an animal, and also gain a little bit, if they choose to be in the 4-H and FFA programs, to put away for their college education. Thank you.
Jalen Thomas, 1348 West Barton Hollow Drive. I must be a city code geek and a state code geek, but I was looking through the book that Melanie supplied for my husband when he was running during the primary. But I came across an article under Title I, Chapter 3, Part 8. It talks about fidelity bonds. I've talked to 3 people on the council and another person who's run for election and a couple of others, and they have no clue about what I'm talking about. That since we are a first-class city, it's required of some city staff plus the city council to go out, to get a bond and to submit that information to the city clerk's office. And it's supposed to be approved, at least in what it appears in state code. Now I didn't write down the title, sorry, of the state code, but it's under section 822, that the approval of the bonds, at least for the city council, has to be approved by the mayor, and the mayor has to be approved by the city council. And when I reviewed the first city council meeting minutes from January of 2014, it wasn't even in the minutes. And so this is something that concerns me, that either if it's not getting done or if it is done, it's not getting done correctly. So looks like from what I'm no attorney, but what I'm looking at is it appears that the city code is not current, nor is the process of doing this correctly. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Since we're going to have January coming up, and with the new people coming on board, to make sure that their bond is in place and recorded with the city clerk before they take the oath of office. And then I'm going to submit this information, grammar request on this issue. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Please come forward.
Dirk Burton, 4492 Black Elk Way, West Jordan. Thank you for your words. And then Ms. Naylor, thank you for your thoughts on the pigs, and I'd like to address that as well, somewhat as well. I haven't had a whole lot of pig experience, but the experience I had is as an electrician doing some electrical work at a pig farm. Now, I know we're not talking about a pig farm, but that's my experience. And as I got out there, you know, we heated the floor so the pigs would just lay there and get big and fat and so they could gain weight. After leaving there, it was very odorific, and it took a week before the odors got out of my vehicle. And I was really glad I didn't live near that pig farm. So I want to take in mind the residences near these other areas where they're doing it. If we look at the map that's provided in the packet, you'll see most of those areas that are given permission for the pigs to be in is the more populous part of the city. So perhaps an idea would be to, if you're going to have pigs in those areas, you contact some of the neighboring neighbors where they may be influenced from the swine that you have on your property, of the odors that go on theirs, and get permission or notify them that you'll have something like that happen. So I think that's something we may want to look at. I did talk to another rancher who does something similar. Well, doesn't do pigs, but has other animals, and he doesn't have pigs due to the odor effect, and he's concerned that we would be permitting that to happen in some of our areas. So just some more things for thoughts as you make the decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mayor, of course I'm a councilman, but I'm going to address you all as Jeff Haggett, 8778 South, 1850 West, as a resident. And really all I need to do is approach the dais with your permission, Mayor, and give council members and some staff members a document.
Looks like they have it.
I don't think they do. I have to personally give it to them. So I can just give it to the clerk and pass it down.
I think you'll have to hand it to the clerk and she'll distribute it.
All right, thanks.
Hold on, before we do that, we have a legal opinion.
Let me go talk to Marion.
Councilman Hagan, you can go ahead and keep your copy.
Karen, do you have a legal opinion?
So service to the city is done through the clerk, but service to individuals has to be done upon the individual to be effective.
Not sure what just happened there. That was highly irregular. Thank you.
Councilmember McConaughey.
I would just like the record to show that although Councilmember Haga did drop some documents at my place, I did not accept them and they had been returned to his area.
As did I.
If necessary to state, so did I as Councilman Southworth.
I addressed you, I addressed this council as a resident of West Jordan, and now I'm back in my official capacity. Thanks.
No idea what's going on.
Anyone else from the public wishing to speak at this time? Seeing none, I will close the citizens' comments. I move to the consent calendar. I would like to pull consent item C for discussion. So all consent items will be after the business items then. Moving on to the public hearing. Item 6A will be continued until November 17, 2015. Requires a motion to.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilmember Southworth.
Second.
And a second by Councilmember Hanson. Discussion of the motion? Councilmember McConaughey.
I would ask if we could make it the first meeting in December instead.
Accepted.
Yes.
Discussion to the substitute motion. I have a motion, a substitute motion, and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, let's vote.
Councilmember Rice.
Aye.
Councilmember Southworth.
Aye.
Mayor Robb.
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols.
Yes.
Councilmember Hanson.
Yes.
Councilmember Haga.
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Aye.
Vote passes 7 in favor.
Yeah.
Councilmember Haga.
Thanks, Mayor. You know, the lovely gal here with the West Jordan logo on it, she wanted to have your contact information, Mark, could you, and so she can leave, and then, unless you want to get up with her before. Thanks, Mayor.
Public hearing item 6B, receive public input and consider for approval Resolution 15-203, adopting the Storm Drainage Master Plan. Wendell.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This is an item that you've seen before several weeks ago. It was presented to you in a final form, but for your comment. We also indicated at that time that we would be going out to an open house, receiving comments from the public, and that those comments would then be incorporated into the final master plan. That has been done, and this evening we're here before you to request approval of or adoption of the master plan. I have Greg Poole, who's here this evening, who will make the a short presentation on it.
Greg.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I think it's coming up. While it's coming up,
Okay.
we, as we discussed last time, we completed a stormwater model that simulates rainfall over the city, and we used specific criteria to do that, to identify deficiencies. And those specific criteria are that oops, I'm jumping way ahead. There we go. We discussed the storm distribution that we used last time. And just want to point out one more thing on that, that the red line is the rainfall intensity, and the blue line is the cumulative rainfall. This is a unitized graph. To get the individual intensities, you would take that value and multiply it times whatever rainfall amount you had. So, for example, in this case, if you're after a 6-hour storm, 100-year event, you would multiply 2.02 times that value to come up with what the intensity is. We didn't discuss that last time, but this is the Farmer-Fletcher storm distribution, which was used. This is the key thing that I wanted to discuss again tonight, and that is that we have two criteria that we use to test the storm drainage system. The first one is, do we contain a 10-year event within the curb and gutter and storm drain system? That's our nuisance flood control level. Our streets are readily passable. You can access businesses, that kind of thing. In larger events, major storm events, such as a 100-year event, we allow storm drainage or storm flows to get up onto above the curb and gutter, on the sidewalk, that kind of thing. You're expecting those to be on an event that will stop some traffic, is a nuisance but it's a rare event. The key criteria with that is to not flood homes. Using the criteria and the storm drainage model, we then identified problems, areas of deficiency throughout the city. And then with those deficiencies and working with city staff in several workshops, we came up with recommended solutions, and that's what this capital improvement plan represents. Are there any questions?
Questions from council? I have one question.
Yes.
It's good to see you again, as always. The area that exists at the very top of the map, that is Taylorsville City,
yes,
on the right-hand portion, and the area that's on the left-hand portion, that is Kearns, or Salt Lake County.
Right.
Can you quantify the amount of water that's received into our system from those two? Have you looked at that?
Yes.
Okay.
I do not have those quantities right with me, but they are in the model.
But you have it.
We have, and we yes.
We can quantify the CFS that enter our system from those two agencies.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, those are included in the modeling.
I'll be needing that. So
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Other questions? I think you're done. Thanks.
Thank you.
I will now open the public hearing of item 6B. I have one signed up to speak on this item. Barbara Backman.
Hi. My son's home, as you're aware, is in the cul-de-sac 6960, and you've all seen pictures that I took of that monster flooding. I'd like to thank the city for keeping the water away from Victor's house this summer. I so appreciate it, and I also wanted to thank you all for looking at this storm drain system. I know it's not the funnest thing to put West Jordan's money into, but it all needs to be done. This infrastructure just has to be done. So I'm in favor of it, obviously. And I also would like to tell you that I know that it has to be done because West Jordan's growing, and it just can't take any more. It just has to be fixed. And I appreciate every one of you. And I hope as the new council members come in, you can let them know exactly what we're dealing with. And we know that we're going to be dealing with this until it's completed about 2018. That circle won't be safe completely until then. And I thank you for all of your support. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing? Please come forward.
Alexandra Ephraimo, 3735 Judd Circle, Mayor and Council. You know, I've just been sitting here, and, I know we've had many discussions on storm flooding, but, and I just want you all to know, maybe you don't remember, but if you see on TV the cities that are being flooded, flat cities, we need to count our blessings that we have as little problem as we do when we have storm flooding. So I don't know why, but people just they're not counting their blessings. Salt Lake City, West Jordan, is not totally flat. It is up and down, up and down. Even my area, the street goes up and down. So I just want us all to reconsider, and I know we've had flooded areas, but much less than other cities and states in the United States. So please, let's remember to count our blessings and remember that we are in a very minority. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Yes, please.
June Christiansen, 6417 West, 7800 South. As I look at this, I get a ray of hope inside because water is a big issue. And it's not just controlling the flooding, it's containing the water in a more usable place. In the current way that we do, we run a lot of water off into the Jordan River, which then tracks it over to the Great Salt Lake, where in the salty condition it's not usable. You can retain it in your area, settle it back down into the subwaters over time as it filters to the ground. You do yourself a big favor. It helps keep the land from settling. There's a lot of issues that are real positive about keeping the water in place. And so I'm really pleased to see that something's being done to try to do that, not just protection of the surface with the flooding, but also this would be a great benefit to us as we look at our groundwater conditions. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing portion of item 6B and return to the council. Councilmember Nichols.
Mayor, I have a motion if there's no comment.
Guess we have one comment prior to that. Councilmember Hagan.
So this is really a great study. I appreciate the good work, and I've spent some time looking it over. So I'm very impressed. But my main concern now, is expediting. That the plan is in place. We have a motion on the table, but there's no timeline. In most business situations, if you don't have some kind of timeline, or urgency, I don't want to see our residents come back next year. So I would hope that our staff, and maybe we make an amendment and ask for a timeline to facilitate some of these projects. So, but otherwise, very, very, very well done. Thank you.
Councilmember Nichols.
Thank you, Mayor. We didn't quite have a motion, but we'll do that motion now. But before I do that, I wanted to thank June. Just echo her comments. It's right on point. Thank you. And with that, staff, as I understand, is planning on bringing this back to us through strategic plan, and that's our timeline when we'll start moving forward on these plans. So with that, I move to adopt Resolution 15-203.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Nichols and a second by Councilmember McConaughey. Discussion to the motion. I have one comment. I'm going to support the motion, but I still looking forward to our long discussion in January about some of the impact fee eligible stuff in the study, and certainly about the other entities that enter our storm drain system and their portion of paying for the new storm drains that need to be constructed. So with that, let's vote.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Councilmember Rice? Aye. Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Southworth?
Aye.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Mayor Robb?
Yes.
Councilmember Hanson?
Yes.
Vote passes 7 in favor.
Item 6C, receive public input and consider for approval Resolution 15-204, adopting the secondary water master plan. Wendell?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This is in the same situation as the previous master plan. We've presented this to you in a final draft form about a month or so ago. We also indicated that we would be doing an open house to receive public comment, which we did on September 30th. What we're asking for this evening is only master plan adoption. We're not asking that the council move forward with implementation at this point. We still have some work that we need to do as far as searching out or finalizing issues related to the water sources, which you're aware of. And then we're also working on looking at or finalizing what we understand the condition of the existing system to be with the construction project that you've already approved. So once we do that, then we would bring it back and talk about implementation at that point. Richard Noble from Hanson Allen Luce will make a short presentation on this master plan.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My presentation is a PDF file. It's not a PowerPoint. And so if you can open that PDF file. Maybe while he's bringing that up, this secondary water master plan is an update of a master plan study that was completed in 2006. And the scope of the master plan was limited to the areas west of 4800 West. We did not consider any implementation of secondary water to the east of 4800 West in this master plan.
Let's wait until you have a chance to present.
I guess I should have used PowerPoint.
Councilmember Shopman, you have a comment or meeting?
I'm sorry, that was an accident.
Okay.
Did not.
Would you like me to just talk my way through this without the visuals, or?
If you would, we have it in our packets.
Okay.
For the
Very
public,
good.
it was more.
So as I mentioned, the master plan includes the areas west of 4800 West, and specifically the study area. Here we go. This is looking promising. And then Control L should make it full screen. There we go. Here we go. So the, well, we had it for a moment.
If we saw it, we know it's there.
So specifically, we focused as the service area for the secondary water system would be the subdivisions that had existing secondary water pipes in them, and then in addition to that would be the parks, the schools, and then the low-density residential areas. as shown, there we go, as shown in this graphic right here, the shaded areas would be the areas that would be served under the secondary water system. Tabulation of the acres served would show a total gross acreage of 3,500 acres. Of that, about 2,600 acres would be irrigated by the secondary water system. And so the total amount of water needed for the secondary system, you take this 2,586 acres times 3 acre-feet per acre, gives you just under 7,800 acre-feet of water that would need to be provided to serve this system. There's a total of, using the maximum density in each of the zones, about 9,800 connections that would be served by this system. Here's a view of the proposed system in the master plan. There are several pressure zones that are denoted by the various shadings and various colors, and then a system of pipelines, pump stations, and reservoirs that would service those areas. We also included in the master plan a second option, which is not necessarily typically done, but this would be a fallback position in case the city were unable to acquire the water rights necessary to serve the system. And this would be a fallback system that would only serve the subdivisions with existing dry pipes in them. The implementation is shown in phases here, including 8 different phases of the system. And of course, this is not necessarily a final implementation plan, but just a way to present this so that we could complete our scope of also giving the city an idea of what the user rates might be for this secondary water system. And so here is the cost of the various, the various phases. Also included is a water rights purchase of about $5 million, so a total price tag of about $72 million. We had to, like I said, assume an implementation plan, and so this is a fairly aggressive schedule that shows expenditures each year for each of these phases to bring it online so that we could make assumptions regarding the funding that would be required. And based on this assumed schedule, then this figure here shows the projected revenues that would need to be required or received through user fees of using the system starting next year with 2 components. One would be a per connection charge that would be used to take care of the fixed costs of the system, and then a use charge per acre foot that would be used to recover the variable costs. And so in that first year of operation, each connection uses less than 1/2 of an acre foot, so it would be a total cost in the neighborhood of about $20 on top of the $30, just under $50 per connection. And then that would escalate as the system is implemented. However, there would need to be several policy decisions made to really come up with the rates for this. I should point out that about 70% of the infrastructure, the costs of that infrastructure is for future connections. And so it would seem logical that a significant portion of the capital costs could be picked up through impact fees. And so this is not intended to be a rate study. There would need to be policy decisions made, and then a rate study and an impact fee study to come up with the user rates. So that's my presentation.
Thank you. Questions from the council? Councilmember Hagan.
Yeah, so I read this study too, and it was pretty, again, very impressive study. So from my point of view, I'm one of the newer council members, but you know, I was talking to one of my neighbors who's old homestead, and he wanted, you know, I noticed we have to buy water rights. So now he explained water rights to me. I kind of know if I can get that question from you. What's the difference between a water right and buying acreage of water?
Well, a water right has assigned to it a certain volume of water or acre feet of water, and depending on the water right that is acquired would determine how much water goes with that water right.
If there were other people that had different rights of that water, is there a priority between owning acreage of water versus?
Well, each water right has an assigned priority. I don't know if that's what you're asking. And so as the city looks at acquiring water rights, they're going to want to do quite a bit of due diligence to determine really what would the yield of those water rights be, not only in terms of the hydrology, but also the priority of those rights. And based on that, they should be able to come up with a good estimate of how much water each particular water right would yield.
Okay, thank you. And then I have another question. So I was reading in your study about mixing the water because we'd be pulling from the Welby Canal. Is this water have some kind of contaminations in it that is harmful to plants?
Well, really the consideration with the Welby Canal water is that the source of that water is Utah Lake. And depending on the hydrologic regime that we're in, whether it's you know, in a wet year or a dry year, in the dry years, Utah Lake can see an increase in the salt levels in the water. And so as those salt levels increase, there could be certain years when the water, if not blended with other sources, could be damaging to certain types of plants. Should be able to be used on lawns anytime, but some of the more sensitive plants may have a problem in certain dry years if it's not blended with other sources.
Other questions? Thanks. I'll now open the public hearing of item 6C. Anyone from the public wishing to speak on item 6C, now would be the time. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing portion of item 6C and return to the council.
Mayor, I have a motion if we're ready.
Councilmember Southwood.
I move to approve. Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Southworth and a second by Councilmember Nichols. Discussion to the motion. Councilmember Haga.
I object to that, Mayor, because I had my light on before the motion was made. But anyway, all I wanted to talk about is the water rights in all of West Jordan, and I'd like to actually see if staff can determine the water rights, just because a lot of the rights are still owned by some of the folks that are my neighbors and are my constituents. And we're fortunate to have 5 canals going through our city. So obviously there's water rights still owned by major landowners in our city, and how we acquire that, I want to make sure where we're going to get them because they live here. They're still our constituents. So that was my comment. I actually think, again, this is a great study, so I have no opposition to the motion.
Just to be clear, we would have to purchase water rights from willing sellers. So it's not like we're going to take any water of anyone who has deeded the water right. Other discussion of the motion? Seeing none, let's vote.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson?
Yes.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Mayor Rolfe?
Yes.
Councilmember Southworth?
Aye.
Councilmember Rice?
Aye.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
The vote passes 7 in favor.
Business item 7A, reconsider the ordinance 15-32, amending the 2009 West Jordan Municipal Code 13-5B-7 to allow swine in rural residential zones subject to the limitations of the animal point system, citywide applicability, City of West Jordan applicant. Councilmember Southworth.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a pretty simple item, so I won't spend much time tonight. What we have is just a reconsideration. This comes before us for a vote, and then we will give direction to bring, if it passes. If it does not pass, and it's done, and if it passes, then give direction to the city clerk to put it on our next council agenda if that's what we want to do. The reason that I asked for this reconsideration is we had a couple of members that were absent. I think there is some misunderstanding and misinformation that may be out there concerning this item. There was a comment earlier. It says that remember, the public says, "I'm really glad I didn't live near a pig farm," and that's a quote, and I agree. I'm glad I don't, and I'm glad that this is not what this is intended to do, to have anything even close remotely to pig farms. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. This is about FFA, 4-H, and dinner table projects. These are simple, and I'd like. I think this buys us an opportunity, gives us an opportunity as council members to really look at what this is and what this is not. It is very true. If we were to allow a pig farm in our city, that'd be a bad thing. It would be a bad thing if we allowed a dairy in this type of situation. It'd be a bad thing if we allowed a massive sheep or mink or whatever you might, but that's not what we're talking about. And so that's probably all the introduction this needs, and with that, I will move that we reconsider ordinance 15-32. Thank you.
We have a motion by Councilmember Southworth and a second by Councilmember Rice. Discussion to the motion, Councilmember Haga.
Yeah, I wasn't here last week, but I'll tell you, you guys stirred up the pot. That's all I can say as far as my neighbors. Because we live in the older neighborhood where we actually have rural/urban. And the Kirkman farm is still active. The Okapoos farm is still active. And, you know, it's not really so much as far as the right to raise an animal, but, you know, how do you regulate this type of animal? I don't know, you know. And so I'm going to be opposed to this because there's not enough thought into it, and it's going to, when it starts, if we allow it, we're going to have complaints from a lot of residents. Thanks, Mayor.
Councilmember Southworth.
Thank you. Just to clarify too, I don't think I put that in the motion, but the intention was that it's a motion to reconsider and to bring that back at our next council meeting.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, ma'am.
Verified with our acting city attorney, because it's on the agenda, if the motion passes to reconsider it, you can consider it tonight, unless you choose not to.
I don't think that's a bad thing if the council was agreeable to that. I don't want to do something the council's not ready to do, or.
I would like to ask the attorney.
If we could bring that back, that's the 17th is the next one. If that's, we'll just.
Councilmember Hanson.
I cannot vote to approve this tonight. If we're bringing it back for reconsideration, then I could. I believe this is a great subject, a great project for 4-H, for FFA, but that doesn't talk about the neighbor that lives next to you that gets them because they have rural residential property and they don't take care of them. That doesn't discuss the neighbor on each side of you that has rural residential or acre or half acre, or the subdivision that's on an 8,000 square foot lot, but they live next door to a subdivision that has half acre. That isn't for 4-H or FFA. That is for food. And spending a great deal of time on a farm, I know what pigs smell like. And you can tell me it's no different than having your large dogs or whatever. I've had large dogs also. Now, so I agree that this, I can bring it back for reconsideration if that is what we're voting for. If we're voting to pass it, and I'm against that. I think it should be in an agricultural zone. If indeed it is passes for rural residential, I think there should be, they should get a conditional use permit so their neighbors know what is going in next door to them. That's only fair to the neighbors. I've got a neighbor on one side of me on an acre that brought in 150 chickens and 20 turkeys. That was not pleasant. I've got a neighbor on the west side of me that has more junk than the junkyard. And if they brought swine in, they're not going to take any better care of them than they do their property right now. So I think that if we bring this back, and it does pass, it should have a conditional use so the neighbors know what they're going to have to deal with. And that's all.
Councilmember Rice.
Thank you. I would like to get a crack at this. I was prepared to talk about this as something to be dealt with at potentially the next meeting, not tonight. And I'm actually going to need to leave in a moment here if I can be excused as well. But I want to get through this vote first thing.
I have a point of order question, Mayor.
First, we have Councilmember McConaughey, and then you.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just going to say, in response to Councilmember Southworth's remarks, I'd be happy to discuss tonight, or if it's brought back at a later time, I would prefer December, or preferably the first meeting in December. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Haga.
Yeah, so probably legal, and maybe our honorable city recorder and clerk is, I'm 99% sure we can only reconsider a certain period of time. So this was talked about as a public hearing, am I right, last council meeting. And now we have a councilman bringing it back for reconsideration because he was a positive vote on the, I guess there was 5 people here. So can you reconsider reconsideration? Huh?
I would have to look at the rules to clarify, but I think that if it was in the last meeting and then there was the motion to reconsider in this meeting, that it could be heard the next meeting. Because that would be within 2 meetings of the vote.
Okay. Councilmember Southworth.
I guess just a clarification, I don't know that we're hearing this tonight, but just to clarify what it was, is it is to allow a limit, no more than 2 pigs under the point system, a complete, utter, total ban and exclusion of any breeding or birthing of any animal. And so that means that you'd have to obtain one of these from somewhere else. There is absolutely no breeding, no birthing, complete ban on anything more than 2, up to 2. You could have 1 if you so desire. No more than 2. And really that's what we're looking at, and that is a lot of the safeguards are put in place. On top of that, you also have, the city has a nuisance ordinance that supersedes all of this. And so anyway, so that's what we're reconsidering now. If it works for the council and it works legally that we can do this in the December meeting, then I'm okay.
It does not work in the December meeting.
It would have to be the next meeting to fall within the 2-meeting rule, as Councilman Hager brought up.
Can I, let's see, I would like, who's our parliamentarian here? Can I ask, if a motion is withdrawn, can I make this the same motion subsequently?
If you withdraw the motion that was recently made,
Mhm.
and then make it again
Mhm.
at the same meeting?
Yes.
I would like to withdraw my motion and make a new motion that we take a 5-minute break.
Oh, sure.
I have a motion by Councilmember Southworth and a second by Councilmember McConaughey. Discussion of the motion. Councilmember Hanson?
Oh, I'm sorry, no.
Councilmember Hagan?
Yeah, I don't know, are we just wanting to rest, or we need to talk?
It's a recess for 5 minutes.
Okay.
Let's vote.
Yeah, we can. Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson?
Yes.
Councilmember Haga?
No.
Mayor Ralph?
No.
Councilmember Southworth?
Aye.
Councilmember Rice?
No.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Vote passes 4-3 in favor.
5 minutes.
Okay.
Back to the council for discussion.
Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you. I will move to reconsider ordinance 15-32.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Southworth and a second by Councilmember McConaughey. Discussion to the motion.
And
Councilmember McConaughey.
so just to clarify, Mayor, this is not passing anything, this is just to discuss further, correct?
Correct. To reconsider, yes.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hagan.
Point of clarification, I need to hear the motion again. So the question from Councilman McConaughey, would you please repeat that?
I can repeat the motion. The motion
Sometimes
was...
I talk too fast, so slow it down for us older guys.
Yes, no problem. Reconsideration of ordinance 15-32.
I thought we had determined that was, it has to be within 2 meetings, so it would be then next on, when's our next meeting scheduled? 17th. So I'd like to amend it to say the 17th, so we keep them in a time range.
This is immediate. We'll have immediate reconsideration following this vote.
So how do we if we're not going to follow our rules, what are we going to do, Darian?
The rules require that the motion to reconsider be made within 2 meetings. So since it was the last meeting that the vote was taken, the motion to reconsider can be made in this meeting.
Call a question.
I'll write that down.
We have, the question is called. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a motion to call the question and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Let's vote.
So now what are we voting on?
We're voting just to reconsider.
Just to reconsider ordinance
Not to pass it.
15-32. Okay. Mayor Robb?
No.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Councilmember Rice?
Aye.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson?
Yes.
Councilmember Southworth?
Aye.
Vote passes 6-1 in favor.
Councilmember Southwood.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve ordinance 15-32.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Southworth and a second by Councilmember Rice. Discussion to the motion. I will only say that if this passes, this will be the biggest nightmare that our enforcement people have ever had. You don't put swine that close to houses on small lots. I consider a small lot being 20,000 square feet for rural residential.
Make sure we're doing this right. So legal opinion. So we're voting on this item that was reconsidered from last council meeting, correct?
That's right.
Correct.
Right. So if I vote as a proponent, just hypothetically, because we don't discuss how we're going to vote, I can reconsider it again.
Unless there's a rule that prevents reconsidering it more than once, which I don't see in the council rules at what I'm looking at right now.
Let's vote.
Councilmember Southworth?
Aye.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson?
No.
Councilmember Rice?
Aye.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Mayor Roth?
No.
The vote passes 5-2 in favor.
Business item 7B, discussion and review of draft of 77,000 South feasibility study by Hales Engineering regarding the widening of 70th South. Wendell?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This is a very draft report. The staff just received a presentation last week on it, and we wanted you to see where we were at, since it'll have quite an impact in the future on our residents. I'll turn the time over to David Murphy, who's going to make the presentation.
Thank you, Wendell. Thank you, Mayor and Council. We have been working on this for approximately 6 months, and this was done under federal funds, federal guidelines, and a little bit of money participation and cost share from the city. So it has been a very robust study. The engineering firms listed there, PEC, Hales Engineering, and Meridian Engineering, have all been involved in this study in various aspects of it, and looking at the traffic impacts that widening of 70th South would encompass. We looked at several different alternatives, and each alternative has its own pluses and minuses, and the report details some of those pluses and minuses as you go through. The existing right-of-way is an 80-foot right-of-way. The corridor out there with 80 feet can actually have 5 lanes on it. The 5 lanes are considered a little bit substandard in this alternative because they're not 12-foot lanes, and so when you get anything less than 12 feet, it's considered a narrow lane, and that can still cause traffic concerns and troubles when you do that. But 5 lanes can fit in the current alignment. We just have a roadway section there so you can see what that would consist of for truck traffic and so forth, standard park strip and standard sidewalk. And in each of these alternatives, we considered what extra impacts and extra things would have to happen at the intersections as well, traffic signal upgrades, pedestrian concerns, bicyclists, and so forth. Alternative 1, again, tries to fit within the current alignment. You will notice that there are small improvements at each intersection, some turn lane pockets that have to happen to get the intersections to perform. We considered intersections as a node on each point of the project, and the lanes themselves as another portion of the project. So when you see the next graphic here, you'll notice that we have line work that is the roadway section, but dots for the intersection, and we have level of service for each one of those. They're different aspects in each level of service for either intersections or the lane configurations themselves. And so this is looking at 2040 traffic in the future model. There's some basic assumptions there, such as there will be a bridge here at Bangerter Highway. The model has that assumption as included in all of the alternatives. There's minor intersection widening included at each of the intersections and so forth. Alternatives 2 and 3 take a normal 5-lane facility with standard lane widths and some expanded park strips. And what we did with this alternative was we looked at both the north and south alignments and what it would entail to line up this expanded right-of-way either to the north side, basically between 13th and Bangerter, or the south side in alternative 3. So north alignment on alternative 2, south alignment on alternative 3. And again, this is just a 5-lane configuration. And alternative 3, very similar results to the existing right-of-way with a 5-lane expanded right-of-way. The benefits here, a couple little nuances, is you do get bike lane facilities on the road with the expanded cross-section. You get people back from the right-of-way too with the expanded park strip. So there are some smaller benefits there, but they're not insignificant. There are some good benefits to these two alternatives. Alternative 4 was a 7-lane facility all the way through the project, and this right-of-way is quite expansive there. You can see it's 140 feet versus the current width of 80 feet. So there's going to be a big shift of 60 feet that you have to acquire. And this graphic just gives some details of what that alignment looks like. We did not look at the south alignment and shifting this south, even though that's still possible. This still gives you the range of cost, whether it was takes on the north or takes on the south. The 7-lane alternative really on the right-of-way impacts doesn't change much north to south. It's just big. And here's the level of service that you get with a 7-lane facility. The one item of note here is Redwood Road has some fairly huge volumes of traffic, both AM and PM peaks. And in order to get the intersection at Redwood to perform better, you have to start doing some pretty serious intersection treatments, all the way from medians that require only right-in, right-outs, or a possible bridge there for the traffic on Redwood to pass over while the traffic on 70th passes under. And all of that would impact the business community there rather drastically. And so we have about 3 different alternatives there just for the intersection at Redwood Road alone. And then our 5th alternative, we considered a hybrid section. And the hybrid section was 2 different cross sections, 5 lanes and 7 lanes, but in 2 different areas. The 5-lane would be from Redwood Road, or just past Redwood Road on the west side, all the way to Bangerter. And the 7-lane would be from 13th West up to Redwood Road. And that configuration gives you some important improvements on the performance of the entire alignment. And so the hybrid cross-section, basically we took that 5-lane section and we tried to snake it both to the north and to the south to avoid as much property as possible with the 5-lane section as well. Again, the intersections perform better slightly, and you get a little bit better level of service. Again, without a full major change here at Redwood Road, it still has that performance problem, and this is in the PM peak. One important note here, AM and PM peak is essentially 1 to 1.5 hours a day. It doesn't mean that the intersection fails the rest of the day. It does work well outside of those peak hours. But during those peak hours, you get some stop and go traffic, and it's hard to get through the intersection. But the rest of the day, it's still operating fairly well, and it's fine for the businesses and so forth, all other hours of the day. So that's just something you want to note in your minds as you're looking at this. When it says, you know, you got that red dot there that it's failing, and you've got a lot of stop and go traffic. Again, that is a short window of time during the day, but it is the worst case scenario. We looked at pedestrian and bicycle improvements. We looked at where we have current crosswalks. We looked at where we have current safe school walking routes coming across this road. And we looked at whether or not we would need pedestrian bridges as well, going to a 5 or 7 lane section. And that's included in the report. And there's various different aspects that need to be taken care of at intersections as well. One of the things of note here is this last bullet point is to include a pedestrian bridge for Heartland Elementary, and that's at 15th West. We're actually going to ask for funding for that right now to see if we can't get that to happen sooner than later. That crossing right now has about 100 kids a day that cross that section of road, and we would like to see some bridges on 70th coming over the top, similar to 6200 South. So that is one of our requests for federal funds right now. Also, we've got permissive left turn phasing. The signals need to be upgraded throughout the corridor to give you that permissive left yellow arrow, and turn pockets at each of these intersections is absolutely required. A right-hand turn pocket to allow people to make that free right when they can against the signal. That improves the performance of the intersections. Last slide here. So going down the alternatives, each one has some quantifiable costs. And when you look at the property takes for each alternative in the report, Meridian Engineering and PEC, they went back and we did a cost analysis of what it would cost to gain the right-of-way and actually build the road. If you'll notice that the drivers of your cost here, you know, in the fluctuation of the amounts, the construction costs are relatively the same, but the driver of the cost is in the right-of-way. And essentially, you know, you can have some background here of how many properties are going to be affected, north or south, in looking at each alternative. So the only one that meets and actually allows all the intersections to perform adequately would be that grade separated, but that's just not a cost that is probably going to be jumped at by either the state or the city anytime soon. But this analysis was provided as a way to start the discussion on the environmental impact statement, to go after federal funds, to get our lobbyists to help us to phase this project and decide how to best serve the residents here with the least impacts possible. The next step in this process is really a full environmental impact statement to know all of the aspects that we'll have to go through to get to a federal fund level that we can have that will actually fund the project. We looked at historical properties as well, so we have some basis to start the EIS too, to know which properties that might be affected are going to hit that historical register too. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the study.
Questions from council? Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. Not so much a question per se, rather a request. Could we get a copy of this presentation? We just have the little 2-pager in the packet, and I know some of the folks in my district would be very, very interested in this.
Sure. That's all online, and we can send the PDF out in the morning. Sure.
Thank you.
Looks like that's it, Dave.
Thank you.
guess we'll postpone item 7C and go back to consent item C. Yeah, the puller isn't here, except for item C. So we're consent 5C, approve resolution 15-202, authorizing staff to increase the storm drain water bond issue from $5 million to $6.5 million for the 7800 South, 4000 West slip lining project. I pulled this item because I think, not because I don't support it, I just think that in January we're going to have a much larger bond approved to take care of the issues rather than just piecemeal this particular issue. So I would like to have this item tabled until strategic plan so that we can look at the entire storm drain system deficits globally rather than piecemeal. I make that a motion.
I'll second for discussion.
A motion by Mayor Rolfe and a second by Councilmember McConaughey. Discussion of the motion. Councilmember Southworth.
Thank you. I guess to staff who put this on here, can you give me some indication of the timing and the reason it's on here now? Do we have time to wait? Do we do this now? Okay, just help me understand the ramifications of the question at hand.
Well, the concern that we have is we've had 2 failures of this pipeline in 78 South in the last 2 months. One directly right after the other one. And so we've gone in and repaired those, but and as part of the 78 South project a number of years ago, we replaced some of it, but we didn't have enough money to replace it all. So our concern is that we be able to go in and do what we call it slip lining the pipeline so that we can prevent any other sinkholes, basically, along that pipeline. So we wanted to do that as soon as we could.
And would that have to take place, that work have to take place within the next construction season that will begin next spring? Or could that be immediate? Or we still have to bond and all that, but it can't be right immediate.
It's not an open cut type of a situation. It's actually you use each of the existing manholes, slip a liner in there, and heat it up, and it expands and creates the pipe basically inside. So you could do it now if we had the money.
Okay.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you.
Would there be any concerns with waiting until strategic planning to move forward with this?
Just that it would delay the construction, possible more sinkholes developing. We were actually lucky not to have cars fall into those. They were quite large. That's our concern, is a safety issue.
How far back do you think this would set us if we said let's wait 2 months until strategic planning? Would it just be 2 months further back, or what would the implications be?
The concern is the design time frame. We have at least a month to 2 months minimum for the design time frame and the bidding time frame. We would be looking at a contractor, a slip lining contractor, who's typically very busy, but the quantity of this project would entice him to come to us first as soon as he is available. And the sooner we get this out to the bidding community, the better off we will be. We have, and I have videos that I could bring up right now that show that the pipeline is failed. Its invert is gone. You can see aggregate through the bottom, and water that's going through that pipeline is actually leaking on the outside. So it's not imminent failure. The pipeline has failed, and now we have to restore it. We can still restore it, but I cannot tell you how many more times we're going to have the sinkhole problem. It could be imminent. It could be 3-4 months. That I don't know. And that is the issue at hand, is that we really have a failed pipe we need to replace and repair, but as soon as it is physically possible to have it done, it needs to be done.
Councilmember Southwood?
Oh, I'm sorry, my light was still on, but I guess $1.5 million is a lot to add to a $6 million bond, or $5 million, bring it up to $6.5 million. I understand, it sounds like it's a pretty dangerous need, a lot of risk for the city. The alternatives sound like you know where the problems are. Well, current problems. You could fix those, but you don't know where the next one's going to show up throughout the whole line. Is that what you're saying to us?
We have videoed the entire pipeline. We know the areas that have to be completely slip-lined.
Right. And you could Band-Aid this by digging it up and fixing it, but eventually you're going to have to do this.
Yes. Meaning, yeah, you can wait for the sinkholes to occur and you can dig them up and replace them at $20,000, $30,000 a shot, but you're taking the risk of injury simply.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you.
I'd speak in favor of the motion. We have deficits all over the city. We have failures all over the city. This is not unique. I think we need to address the item globally rather than piecemeal again. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. Kind of a thought, and I'd like to hear other thoughts on this. One of my concerns is waiting too much longer to tackle the project. I'd rather get it as soon as we can. But at the same time, what we heard from Mr. Rigby was that we seem to have got ourselves in this situation because we piecemealed it together in the first place. We started the project and didn't have enough to finish it, is what it sounded like. So part of me would like to act right now. Part of me would like to do the whole thing and do it right. And I'm still not really sure which way I'm leaning on this one. So I'd love to hear some more thoughts.
And I think those are great points, Councilman, and both of them there. And what that makes me wonder is, if you don't, it sounds like, Mayor, what you're suggesting is there are others that need probably similar, so we'll rack up. So instead of being another additional 1.5, we may be 2.5 or 2, or who knows what that cost will be.
About $20 million.
About $20 million? Mm-hmm. So that's not going to happen. We just don't have the capacity to do that right away, and I guess that's why we have these master plans that we're doing, and we need to plan for those as we go. 1.5 is a lot, but I don't think we have the money to do all of it. So I don't know how much further we go. I would suggest that we move ahead with the 1.5. But we have additional bonding capacity. I guess we can tap into later. It's expensive to continually do that, but it sounds like maybe we ought to just go.
I'm going to turn the time over to our city manager.
Mayor, thank you. We prioritize all our projects, and that's what the Public Works does. If we wait to put it all in one group, we'd still have to then prioritize it as bonding and going through this thing, so it would delay the whole kit and caboodle. This one is, I've seen the TV line, and it's one I don't think we want to mess with, and that's why I put it on the consent, because I thought you would agree. Maybe that's my mistake, but it is our top priority right now, getting this thing fixed.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. Different question. Would it be possible for us to have further conversations sooner than strategic planning, maybe early December, so that we can wait to try and get a bit bigger picture, but not push us back 2 months? I guess strategic plan would be almost 3 months that would be pushing us back.
Yeah. After Councilmember Haga's question or answer, I'm going to withdraw my motion.
Okay.
Councilmember Haga.
I apologize, I didn't know him. I just wanted to say, if you remember, not more than 6 to 8 months ago, Draper had a big hole fall in the middle of one of their roads. So, and I've seen the video too. It's probably a disaster waiting to happen. I don't know how far the street will fall, but anyway, I would be a proponent of fixing it and doing it right.
After I comment, I would we spent $9 million on that roadway just less than 5 years ago. Impacted the businesses along there to a major degree, and it's sad that we're talking about having to do a project of this magnitude that wasn't done then, but since it wasn't, I withdraw my motion. Councilmember Southwood.
I have a motion, but first a question. I don't know who pulled items A and B. Is there still intent to talk on those?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Then I will move to approve consent item C.
Second. I have a motion by Councilmember Southwood, second by Mayor Rolfe. Discussion? Seeing none, let's vote.
Councilmember Hanson?
Yes.
Mayor Rolfe?
Yes.
Councilmember Southworth?
Aye.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Vote passes 6 in favor.
Consent item 5A. Approve resolution 15-200 authorizing the mayor to execute amendment number 4 to the professional service agreement with Stanley Consultants Incorporated for the secondary water pipeline design along 7000 South from South Valley Water Reclamation Facility to Bangerter Highway, not to exceed $141,568. Councilmember Haga, you pulled this item.
I just want to express my vote, Mayor. Call the question.
So are you moving to approve then?
No. So I just want to cast a negative, so.
Okay. Councilmember Southwood.
So you won't be making a motion then, Councilman? Okay, I move to approve consent items A and B.
Second.
Any discussion of the motion? Did you say A and B?
A and B.
Discussion? Seeing none?
Excuse me, I pulled B and I still have comment on B, so.
It's up for discussion right now.
Okay, then I'll discuss it. So I don't know who's involved with B in our staff. So it has to do with the airport and buying property right away through the airport. Could you explain that a little more detail for me?
There's two utilities across the airport. There's a sewer line and a storm drain line. The sewer line takes flow from the west side of the airport and transmits it across. Then there's a pipeline that comes from this airport itself and connects to it. So what we did was we determined the flows of both of those, figured out the costs, and distributed those between the airport and the city for the sewer line. The storm drain line is, they did mostly to protect the airport itself. The city did not pay for any of that, any of the construction of that storm drain facility. And then the easement, it covers both of those, and it basically just pays for an easement across the property. We don't actually own that property.
You know, I had a discussion with the city manager about the airport, and you know, I had a privilege to patrol it with one of our officers, and I see all the money we expend on the Salt Lake City airport, and then we're paying for right-of-ways through their property. And I'm just wondering who negotiated this interlocal agreement, and if it's a good agreement. I mean, we've been trying to do something to facilitate discussion with Salt Lake City, but we're willing to pay for an easement to satisfy some of their demand on our sewer and our stormwater. And so that's all I have to say about that. It's in the hands of our city manager. I don't have a negative on this one, so I just wanted to know. I think that this should have given us an opportunity to start a negotiation with Salt Lake City Airport Authority.
Turn the time over to our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. That's a good point, Councilman Haga. We're actually today talked about some of the services we give to the airport, and we have for free for a long period of time, and several of them that we are now going to ask for reimbursable funds from, and put ourselves in a position where we can negotiate either leasing property and developing it or doing other things. But the airport is right in the center of the bullseye as far as my priorities. It's a huge swath of property right in the middle of the city that we really need to take charge of.
Thanks, Mayor.
So, just a question, City Manager Mark. So now that they billed us $141,000 for easement, we're going to look at starting to calculate the cost to our city of providing the services that we provide. Is that I just wanted to summarize.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Let's vote.
Councilmember Southworth?
Aye.
Mayor Robb?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember Hanson?
Yes.
Councilmember Haga?
I need a clarification. I'm on vote no on one and yes on the other.
Can't, they're both tied together.
Oh, is that how our rules work, Harry?
Well, that's how the motion was made.
That's the motion.
Oh, okay. Just for this, because I want to support the city manager, I'll say yes.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Vote passes 6 in favor.
Okay, last item, item 7C, discussion and possible action regarding directing staff to draft a template employee agreement for various city employees with an example from a neighboring city. Councilmember Haga.
So, I tried to take out whatever information this person involved, but I was very, very impressed with the law firm, which is a contractor firm that wrote this contract. And as one for the last 2 years that sat in meetings of anguish on at-will employees and their demands on us as a city, I wanted to just show what other cities are doing in hopes that we can avoid. Again, you know, I'm a businessman person, so if there's problems, you try to overcome them and improve. And so where we have new attorneys that we're maybe perhaps going to hire, we look at not only having an agreement like this for them, but any new employees, at least in the status of a director or assistant city manager. So there's no action required. It's just a matter of know what a smaller city is doing to kind of control future problems and maybe perhaps employees that might tend to stray away from city policy. Thanks, Mayor. So there's no action required, just a look at. Thanks.
Thank you. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to enter into conversation with Councilman Haga on this. I do have some opinion on it, and I think I can clarify some of your views on that.
Discussion on motion would be in order. Councilmember Southwood.
Well, Mayor, I gleefully move to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Southwood and a second by Councilmember Hanson. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.